Aloha family, Spencer-Mack here. Very special day. First guest on the show of all time, and it just happens to be one of the greatest guests I could possibly ask for. Been a big fan of this man for some time now. It's probably been like 10 years or so that I've known his work. At least probably around that.
Since the beginning.
Jeez. And if you aren't aware of who this is, and you've probably been living out in the woods like we are now, but even if so, it's hard to avoid the awesome service this man has been producing. This is none other than Dan, the Life Regenerator himself. Thanks for being here, brother.
And thank you, sir, very much.
Appreciate it, man.
It is an honor to be here, for sure.
I have been lucky enough to be able to link up with Dan and just hang out and talk story, and the ground that we cover in life and spirituality and love and pain, it's been extremely supportive to my mission, and just it's invigorating when you find other people who are on the path. And Dan is one of those all-in individuals, and he has been persistent at it for years, and so had to ask him for the opportunity to share and co-create a video, because that's really what I would like to ask Dan and get some insight into his drive and what has really propelled him to where he is now, because he is one of the best examples of a human thriving and living his purpose that I know of. It's hard to find people like that, and so Dan, thank you for that, brother.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that. And I feel overwhelmed with joy and gratitude that I was knocked into this position, you know, accidentally, sort of, you know, like in my limited perception, accidentally. But I think that there's more, you know, different types of energies at work, you know.
No doubt.
Just in the universe too. It's kind of like, I guess I'll sum it up and say that I just said yes. There's like two options. It's either yes or not yes. And I guess a lot of us, due to comfort, we say the not yes because we're comfortably miserable, you know, or comfortably uncomfortable, you know.
That's one of the main things that I'd like to ask you is, so many people are trying to get out of the rat race, and having a service and a livelihood that is aligned with your ethics and your morals and your ultimate goal in life is key to health. And I feel that you've really found what it is you love and stepped into your character fully. And so I would love to hear a little bit about that process. Like, how did you know you were passionate about this in the beginning, and what really got you into it and kept you in it?
Well, that's a great question. I guess there was a foundation for truth, because at 4 years old, I was on this puppet bus, and they were talking about the light of Jesus. And so I went up there to the puppets, and I said, that's what I want.
Amen.
And the puppets were like, we'll pray for you at the end of the show. And then I was like, no, I want that now. And then so as I look back as an adult on all of the detours that I took that could have ended me up in a dumpster or a garbage can or the hospital or prison, did end up in a mental institution, but the people that work there are crazier than the people that go there against their will or on purpose. But basically, there was that underlying, kind of like karma, if you will, or just an older soul, you know, that came in and then survived through all that young adulthood and childhood. We won't even go into that. Everybody's got their story, you know. But then I was walking along and I found this book. I went into a bookstore to avoid the rain, and I found this $1 pamphlet, and it was talking about raw foods and fasting. And prior to that, I had been drinking juice for about 5 years. My parents bought me a juicer when I was 19. My girlfriend broke up with me, and I went to the gym and started lifting weights to do something with that testosterone. And so I was reading the bodybuilding magazines, but also reading about Chinese medicine and vegetarianism, and just kind of moving slowly, ever so slowly into that direction. And I loved anatomy charts, and I was obsessed with the colon. You know, now I understand why. I've been renewed with my fascination with the colon by all the latest science in microbiome, microbiology, and the effect that that's having on not only our health but our consciousness as well, which is coming in the future. So it's like now it looks like this is our first brain instead of our second. You know, that's what I'm postulating at this time. Like, this is more important going on down here than what's actually been injected into this thing up here as data. The data you're getting from down here is far more organic and real, and that is either going to connect you to the earth and real divine consciousness, or it's going to separate you and you're going to be confused. And you're going to be arguing with your brothers and sisters about a bunch of crap that has zero practicality in any way, and it's theology and it's, you know, philosophy, and the world has that place. There's a place for that, but there's also grounded, practical, hands-on, what is this doing for me right now in my life so that I can have a better life and share more love and health. And so to get on this path, I guess it was always sort of there, but then when I got on the YouTube, I had already been raw for about 8 years, you know? And so I was already firmly established. I was on a raw food diet for 2 years before I met any other human being that ever mentioned the word. There was no books on it. I mean, I could barely find anything. There was no internet back then, you know, and so here I was just eating the weirdest stuff, thinking it was raw. I won't even tell you what. And then I'd have the same salad every night, and that was like spinach, tomatoes, cucumber, avocado, cilantro, and Bragg's, you know. And I didn't know anything, but I just knew that book talking about the raw foods, it resonated with me. You know, that was the game changer. That book, it was a $1 pamphlet called The Essene Gospel of Peace. And I was just blown away, and I was just revelation. So I went from a 200-pound meat-eating bodybuilder overnight to a total live foodist. Now I went over and I got the goats and milked the goats for a couple years because I need my protein, you know. And then that started clogging me up. And then so I let that go, and then I just became like this live food person, but it was not overnight. It was my desire. When I read that and it said, eat the living food and the same will quicken you, and the cooked, frozen, and rotten food will cook, freeze, and rot your body also, I was like, that resonated with me as a person who now realizes, as I've met many more of my Essene brothers along the path, that I most definitely was involved in that energy frequency, the Essenes, the small ones. The Pharisees and the Sadducees are everywhere. Blah, 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 me right, you wrong, you hell, me heaven, you know. And then there's the Essenes that are like, how may I serve you? How may we live by the law of life? Humility, service, love, practical. Some of us are like, it doesn't matter what you eat. It only matters what you think. Some of us are like, it only matters what you think, and it doesn't matter, it only matters what you eat, not what you think. Thoughts don't have any, But then there's the rare individual that understands that everything matters. Every little hair on your head is counted. Every thought you have is recorded. God is looking right at you. You're not getting away with nothing in this universe. And so you might as well get yourself straight and get right with the Lord.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, brother.
Because otherwise you're an idiot. Because you're just going to screw yourself. And that's the real way. Because it's like, hi, I can pretend like I'm happy and the Joneses think I'm wonderful. But deep down inside, I'm miserable. Welcome to Instagram, folks. You know what I mean? It's an Instagram world where... And I know I'm just as guilty as anyone else, but I don't want to live like that anymore because I need that. I need it. It was a taste, and then it was a touch, and then it was a feeling, and now it's an overflow. And I want to really feel that overflow by living right from my feet to the top of my head. My diet has a profound effect with, I eat a plants-only diet, of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. And I think that we're going to see that eating those plant foods with the dirt and the microbiology and the communication network, as far as the microbial activity, the plant cell activity, the enzymes, the water, I see that, you know, we want to have that communication network, especially between the microorganisms. And if we're separated from the soil with all this processed food and cooked food, now I see why. The microbes are living on the raw food, and if you cook it, you kill them. And they have information and energy for your body, which then calibrates your brain to the real world. I feel like, as eccentric as I am, that I am practical human being, because by my own fruits I know myself. When I'm uplifting these women and taking them to a higher level by not dipping down into the lower level. I am plenty animal, but do I want to live as an animal, or do I want to live as a God man?
And that's what separates us, is our ability to actually control that, yeah? And these practices that you're doing, that's amazing. You strengthen that will and that ability to have control of yourself, is what I see. One thing I love about Dan here so much too is that we definitely live very differently in the dietary realms. We majorly connect on the microbiota, but the goal is the same. And that's what I really enjoy. And who knows where I'll be in years or what, but the fact is we're both pursuing the same ultimate goal, and that's that purity, that clarity, that there's nothing hidden. Because like he's saying, you can't hide anything and pretend out here that you're this, because you're the one who's ultimately judging yourself. Those tensions and that knowledge of like what's really happening is the thing that eats you up. And so I really appreciate the way he shares. You've got to check out his channel, watch his videos, because you can just tell he's sharing and there's not any room of hidden. It's like he just wants to be open and loving and caring and in service. And he's so in tune with remembering that that is the mission continuously. Before we even started this mission to come here and make a video, he stated a prayer that it would be in the good of all, for the good of all, that we may make an excellent video that can serve others and really help people. And that just comes spontaneously. He's always asking how to serve, and that's my theory on why he's doing so good. Me always trying to analyze and dissect shit. This guy's just constantly looking for how to help people, and that's why he's freaking living. He's living well. I get to see how he spends his days, where he's living at, his living environment, his relationships, and it's like super, just humbled and grateful, man. The example I find is the most valuable thing that I get from what you share. Yeah, beautiful.
Be it, do it. That is what I've been given as a gift to myself. Is it just words are not enough? I love words. You can tell already I'm a man of many. I have been given a talent, and I have just recently begun to embrace it more and more. I mean, I've had one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake pretty much this whole time. I took my feet off of both, and now I'm starting to put my foot on the gas, but it's because it's coming from a much more, I'm aware, it's like, be yourself. Because I don't want to, like, I know there's resistance to the diet that I love myself. There's resistance to the way that I worship God. And they're always going to have that. Differences of opinion, and then more so in the intellect, there's going to be a lot of resistance. And then you're like, when you bring the money in, so this was one of the things I wanted to kind of cover, was that, you know, I was already established in my, you know, I was already raw foods. That's what I wanted. Cooked, frozen, and rotten food, boom. I'm like, I need to be raw because that resonates with me. And it took me a long time to get over what was kind of an addiction to this, to the numbness of like, even like potatoes. And I'm not judging, but for me, it was like I could eat potatoes and I wasn't as sensitive. I wasn't as aware. And then now looking at the microbiology, I want every meal to feed my gut, to feed my brain, to connect me to God and the earth. So I'm rooted in down there and dialed in with clarity of my mind and my heart, so I can hear. And so now I'm allowing who I really am and what I really believe, in spite of my friends or my family, with their, I don't disrespect or I don't want to argue about religion. I have zero, because I respect, a Jehovah's Witness can come to my door and I will pretty much agree with them the whole time, because at their level of consciousness, that is their truth. And I feel like they're coming from integrity, and I want to encourage that. I can't just say, actually, you could sit and meditate for 4 hours a day and balance your left and right hemispheres, and your pineal and pituitary gland will, connect in a synapse, and then you'll receive direct revelation from the Lord. I'm not going to try and force that on them. It's appropriately sharing information. And that was one of the challenges about the internet, because I was working, I went raw, and then I took my passion and my whole life and what I lived for as an individual, and I put that online. And for the last several years, I've questioned that. And one example is that, like, people ask me, do you want to have a coconut business? Do you want to sell coconuts? Will you sell me a coconut? No, I will not take climbing coconut trees, harvesting these fruits, and turn it into a business, because I don't want to. It's like a service. Now I've got to, because this became my business. And it's been a long, hard struggle, because as a spiritual person, you want to give it all away for free, of course, and you can, and I'm going to more. But I also had the reality of 2 kids, and child support, and I wanted a roof over my head. And, so I had to bring that in there, and it was a hard part, because you're getting judged. All you care about is money, and you're like, no, I don't. It's a practical world that I live in, and I've got to find a way to pay the IRS and have some snacks,
That's one of the things that I wanted to pick your brain about, because I'm working on that myself, is integrating my passion with my livelihood. And I believe you've just been an excellent example of that. So how did that work out for you? You said you laid it out there. What kind of level of restraint? You said you were questioning it for a little bit. Do you feel different now, or?
Yeah, well, now my daughters are grown, and I've really worked on that relationship with money, because it was quite a bit of a heavy stress for a while. I had a kind of a big nut over at this house. I mean, I wanted the garden and the fruit trees, but a big nut like that, it keeps you on your grind, and then you can't drop in. And I wanted to do a 40-day fast, so I gave all that away, moved into this nice little box.
This guy fasted on water for 40 days as a measurement of even just willpower, not spiritual determination. Sorry,
well, that was a game changer. I've never been the same since. And what happened is, now that my daughters are grown and the state wrote me a letter, hey, you're off the hook, nothing's changed. I'm still sending them the same amount, because they're both in college, and I want to support that for as long as I can. But basically, my relationship with money has changed. It's like, now that they're grown and I don't have to worry, it's like if I start giving away everything for free, and I don't have enough, because I'm not on that little grind with the affiliate programs and stuff, then it's okay. I can say, hey guys, you guys are adults now. I've been on my own since I was 16. I love you, but you might have to go get a job or whatever, And so I'm praying for the best and just being prepared, because I want to follow my sadhana. So number 1 is my own spiritual development. I love evolving. I want the ultimate, just like you. That's where we line up. Yes, certain things are different or whatever, but ultimately we have become to the point of awareness that we know that life's goal is that. Not our goal, because we are life, and obviously God is looking for itself through us, and it will not stop until it finds it. And so you can either get on board and let it do what it's going to do, or just walk around all messed up and stoned out, because you got to avoid the inner voices, and you got to avoid that energy trying to clear everything out and get you to wake up.
Yeah, it's gonna happen no matter what. Anyways, that's what I find. It's like, you gotta go. You gotta go all in, and it's not a bad thing. It's just funny how that fear and that tension is actually where the resolution is. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But
yeah, but so when it's rising and there's all that stiffness and pain and resistance, you can just meditate on that, go into it, and just start really looking at your partner, looking at yourself, looking at your life, and learning how to be really radically honest with that process of life, which is really the thing about nature that I've learned is that, especially in like relation to the microbes, they're always trying to keep everything tono. The earth, the microbes, life is trying to support itself. And then you come in and you bring in these short-term, quick fix, make money, greed insertions, like take genetically modified farming or the pesticides and stuff. Is like, oh, we don't want to work hard. And now we realize actually being in the field, plucking the weeds, is the greatest meditation and healing, because every time you pull the weed out of the soil, a plume of microorganisms go right into your nose, and you're continually being calibrated, and you're connected to the earth. So not only do you stay healthy, but you stay sane as well, because if this is an earth gut, then, because if you can follow the laws of nature, then you can start becoming clear enough to receive the law, which is the expansion of God through you back into itself. And so if we stop resisting and get honest and get patient, but yet persevere, you know, and so that's what I've done. Perseverance has been that's my MO. Never quit.
Is there any, is that just a part of your character? You just get back on, like, you know, I know you go through or have gone through challenges, trials, but you come back. Is there anything you can do to bolster that or grow that? Or you find that's a natural part of evolution?
It was really an intellectual decision. I was like, okay, I'm not that smart. I'm not that strong. My willpower's not very good, but the one thing that I can do and be is persistent. I can bang my head against the wall, but as long as I don't give up, I'll never fail.
Yes, sink that one in. Totally agree with that, man.
Yeah.
If you just commit and just know it's going to take some time and you're okay with that and you'll persist.
It's going to take forever.
Yeah, amen. Actually, yeah. If you are okay with it taking forever, then it's really funny. It's almost instantaneous when you really accept that in a paradoxical state.
You're never going to arrive, you know, because once you get to the peace of the bodhisattva, then you're like, oh my God, there's another level. Then you get to the nothingness, and then you're like, oh, this must be it. And then it says, this is not it. And then you get to the allness. Then you get to the top of the mountain, and your nervous system can't even handle it anymore.
And
then God says, you thought that was it? Aren't you ready to become an archangel now? You're like, oh my God, the evolution continues forever. You know? So I always had that, and then I'll be there, and then it'll be done.
Yeah.
You know, because I wanted to relax and take a nap.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
the trail, right? Yeah.
You know, you can take a few naps along the way, but you cannot slumber for any length of time. You have to wake up the next day and be prepared for the earth to be spinning under your feet and for life to be living, and it's going to be living in you. So energy management and inner mastery is going to be something that you might as well get involved in, because it's going to be there anyways. And so I think it's really, you learn how to realize that it's foolish to not choose the evolution, to not choose the conscious evolution, and to face the uncomfort, to face the subconscious, and to really set your criteria and your standards for yourself high. Like, you wouldn't even believe how many women I talk to that let dudes just tap in because they're lonely or whatever. Then there's all those cords and all that drama. Then their diet goes down, their health goes down. Why? For a little bit of bumpy feel good? I mean, believe me, it's great. But it's not worth the drama, because then when you get dialed into another level and you close that door, like, I am never going to let these monkeys tap in anymore, then God can send you a better, more, you set your standards, like, I want this, 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 and this, and no lower than that. And I won't go any lower than that. You know, it's like, whatever your standard is, you could set one, like, you could have one that is, I'm not dipping in at all. That's mine, you know? At this point, 0. You know, that's mine, that's my standard. You could have, I won't be intimate with anybody until I've known them for 3 months, you know? Because, you know what I'm saying? So, and then you stick to that. And then what you do is you learn to have ideals, and when you stick with them, you are happy and satisfied because you know you want to rise up, you know you want to be in your divine peace. And when we were coming up the trail, the word that I never said, but I thought kind of described your what you were saying was harmony. You know, that it's like harmony on all levels. Imagine that, you know, harmony on all levels.
That's a piece I really want to point out about this man. He may have made his beginning from the foundation of food, but he takes on the whole lifestyle approach, from relationships to service, getting out in nature, getting dirty to get the microbiome, the good bacteria, that relationship with nature. And so it's not like even just food, you know, you look at the full spectrum and full sphere of your life and find what is righteous, what feels good, what is going to support me on that path, like he's saying, with the relationships, with food, with your relationship to the environment.
And your mind. And having your heart full of love and moving you and allowing it to be like a beacon of, you know, life. Because it's really alive in there. And if it's tempered properly, this heart can be a great upgrade, you know, to, like, if you're a man and you show up with a heart full of love, do you want to drop it down here, or do you want to stand up and raise that woman up to another level? Because you're like, I don't want to dip in. I know what that brings. I have to stay focused right now. I can't get caught up in anything unless it's for real. So I got to take about lots and lots and lots of time.
I've heard that relationships are the most difficult form of yoga. And what I'm learning in my reality is that requires the highest level of communication. And not just communication of being able to say it to somebody else, but to actually communicate with yourself and know what you feel, what you want, and then the patience to speak and communicate what your needs are, what you want, where you're headed in life, and to be patient with each other, because you might start off speaking different languages. Ultimately, behind the eyes, you're both saying the same thing. But in this world, we have to learn to be patient with each other, learn each other's language, so that we can commune together, communicate. And
it takes a lot of courage to really speak your truth, because it could be a make it or break it with every line of communication.
You don't want to hurt somebody.
You don't want to lose it because you're afraid. But if you're like selling yourself short, you're just killing yourself. You're dying a little bit more. You got to really clear the slate and be like, yo, I just have to say this. I know it's a game breaker or not. It's either going to make us or break us. And when you get better about that, you start to accelerate, and your relationships get a lot better. You would start attracting people that can handle that level of responsibility and communication. And it is a beautiful thing. I love relationships because I learn a lot from them.
I think the biggest problem comes from whenever your life becomes about that relationship. I'm all about love and going to the depths, but your life is about your communion. This is my perception where I'm at. Your communion and unifying with God, with the all, with your totality of being, and having a beautiful friend along for the journey is an amazing thing. But if she becomes the journey, then you lose the path, you know, you lose the truth in a sense.
The less, I don't mean to be judgmental, but the less evolved woman wants you to turn back and look at her.
Yeah.
The more evolved woman will have that tendency, but she'll also be wise, and she'll also understand the man going straight to his goal, supporting that man. And then that is such a blessing to her, instead of, I want diamond rings and I want all your attention. And you're like, I have to teach these people how to live. We've got to save the planet. You can either put some wind in my sails, or I'm going to have to cut you because I love you, but I cannot sacrifice my purpose because I'm a man, and that is how we thrive. So do you want to blow wind into my sails, be my muse? I will bless you and serve you, but I must keep my eye on the prize.
That's a big piece. It's like she feels like she wants to be your all, but once you succumb to that, you lose the glow because you're not on the path to God. So it's an ability to keep your focus on the highest. And it's funny because the closer you get, the higher you get, the more focused you get, the more beautiful these relationships, these friendships are. I take hanging out with Dan to be an excellent sign that I've been doing something good. So I really appreciate this man. And that doesn't just happen like we're talking about with female relationships, but brotherhood with our male friends, with our man friends. And it's a reflection of your relationship with yourself, but still, it's always got to be ultimately your pursuit, your path to know who you are fully. So I appreciate, and when we surround ourselves with people who are on that mission, we're just always continuous reminders for each other, and help set each other straight, help keep each other on the path, and it's very useful. So I appreciate once again you taking time to spend with me and just talk story on the good things in life.
I'm happy because I know that these people are being blessed, like as we're being blessed, because you are our purpose. To do that, to know what we're doing, and then because there's people more advanced, and then there's people that aren't as advanced, and so we're all just, I don't mean to sound judgmental, because we all really are one, but maybe some people have had more experiences and different types of experiences. We want to share that, and then we've been blessed with that, that understanding, where maybe a young man or a young woman or even a more mature person hasn't really quite heard that yet, that we're kind of saying the same thing in so many words. You can't really describe it, but if you get out of the way of all your more smaller wants and allow for those bigger desires to come through, that big desire to connect, to connect with life. So we are here to be of service, and that feels good. So I had a point I was going to make to all that, but then I talked myself out of it somehow.
I think that was an excellent point, though, because it's funny how paradoxical reality is. If you really look for a way to contribute and serve and help others, you're just patting yourself on the back. Like, it comes back to you. This is you, and when you're learning to nurture your environment, your community, you get healthier. So
100%.
Just looking for chances to serve and contribute. It's funny because it's a selfish act.
Yeah, it really is, because you do get on fire. You get super healthy and super fulfilled when you're looking for any way to serve in a, and then what I always try to remind whenever I talk about this type of subject is that you never want to force your service. You just kind of like, hey, grandma, can I take out the trash? Maybe grandma's like, no, I like to take the trash out because that's my thing. You might be doing a disservice.
Yeah.
So you got to find out and make sure. So you gently come in there and, start cleaning or something, and hey, can I do your dishes, And they might be like, no, I like to do my own dishes. No one ever gets them clean enough. And so that would be a disservice to that person's consciousness. So you have to be aware that you are making a difference. So you get better at it as you go along. You can see that what you're doing is really going to uplift, or it's going to be a hindrance because you're trying too hard to force, that service. So it really, you got to really be centered and focused and be present, and you have to let that intention to serve. You will be amazed at the little weird things that happen, and you start to enjoy it. Like, one thing I do all the time is just I take out people's trash. I take their stuff to the dump. And because it's not something that, for me, it's easy. I have a truck and I see it, and so for me, I've always been cleaning everything all my life. Ever since I was 16, well, even actually 8 years old, I started working for myself. So that's why I have, I said, Dad, can I have some money for candy? And he just looks at me and he goes, get a job. That's all he said.
8 years old.
I took that seriously. So I went out and started emptying trash cans, washing dishes, babysitting kids. That turned into lawn mowing.
Wow.
That turned into, washing windows. And then I did that for 15 years, the gutters and the windows and stuff. And there was that service. And so I've learned how to, decipher, but my point was that I've been cleaning things. And then it went into cleaning human bodies out, and now it's going into cleaning spirits, really like, without sounding too woo-woo or anything, but it's like if you really learn to love. I mean, my heart, it's been a journey to get this crust off of this thing, the blackness, the resentments. But, you know, it was like, and then I did a lot of work and fasting and working and trying to do my best. And then it was like, all right, this is like lava rock heart, where it's a little bit of light coming through, you know, and I'm starting to see more clearly. And more, it's clearing away. And I'm really able to be honest with myself. And it's not so much about small human love relationships, which are very important too, but what I was thinking of on the way over here was that, you know, a lot of times, basically the start of a relationship, if it can be started unconditionally, for real, don't just say it, but really mean it. So you got to get yourself up to that level. I've been committed to unconditional love ever since the introduction to Dr. Hawkins' work. And actually Robert Morse before that. So basically Robert Morse little stickers on his book, who's a mentor of mine, you know who that is. It said, you know, be love. You know, God's herbs, be love. And I read his book. He's one of the first raw food people, that and David Wolf's Slim Food Diet Success. Be love, be love. I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. It made sense to me. I didn't really get it. But then when Dr. Hawkins came with the intellectual explanation of unconditional love and the progressive fields of consciousness, then my left brain could make sense of it. And then I was like, you're an idiot if you don't commit to unconditional love. And then of course, if any of you have ever seen me on my journey, you know that I wasn't always there. And I'm not saying I'm there now, but I am definitely more there now, seeing the benefits of that, the blessings of that, than I was then. And I really still do want to perfect that. And I've gotten to a really good level because I just don't criticize people for their diet. I don't criticize anyone for anything. It's just, it's not even in my field, you know? Maybe concepts and maybe looking at society and looking at some of the ways that we do certain things need to be scrutinized and changed yesterday. But as far as the individual go, I mean, when was I not ignorant? I mean, I was. When did I not do piles of drugs? You know, I mean, I am guilty. But now I love sobriety. And when you said that word earlier, clarity, yesterday was funky because it was the end of the moon. And then yesterday I actually came out here and I tromped right up this trail, as a matter of fact. It's good to be back here. I was just getting it right, and I was like, because I slipped a little, I was getting a little funky, some drama was coming up around the corner if I didn't wake up and pay attention and clean my slate. So I made a few phone calls, cleaned some things up, got right with the Lord, and now I'm coming through with clarity, and the new moon comes today, right now. So the new doors are opening. I have committed to going to a higher level, so that I can be a blessing to all the people who it would have been chaos and drama, in the sense of, you know, I won't even get into it because it's personal business and stuff. I want to protect people, but it could have been chaos and drama, but then I saw the right way to go is to rise up as a man and hold the field for everyone so that they can all rise up. If I dip back down into the animal consciousness and let my willy-nillys get their way, then I can foresee the drama in the future and the pain. So I've decided to get clear and recalibrate and, you know, recommit, and I'm gonna do that. And then I know that what should not be there will fall away, and what is to be will come in, but it will be at a higher level and commitment to my path, the truth, purity, and the one that I love the most, which I get from Makaleha Spring, is clarity. I go over there, which I'll do after the video, and we can go baptize ourselves with clarity, because I love the light, and I love the clarity of, because then then you sleep at night, and then you wake up in the day and you're joyful. But if you've got the blocks in there, because you haven't been straight with yourself or others, then you're going to be constipated and it's going to be like, okay, I guess I feel sort of okay-ish, but you want to feel great. So that's going to be honesty and clarity and all the other divine virtues. And then it's the cultivation of the divine virtues, which then just, you don't really fight against the lower nature or those lower states or the lesser virtues like greed and shame and guilt and fear. But you cultivate those divine virtues. You don't have to attack the negative, and the negative just, there's no room for it anymore because you have committed to purity. So how could there be impurity?
I'd like to tie some of these pieces in because what I'm seeing, what Dan does now as a service is the same thing that he did as a kid. It's an innate part of him, and I think when we're trying to find our service to the collective, paying attention to what we naturally did while we were young, and if he's just out there, he has the habit of cleaning and keeping things clean, and he's just progressed that art all the way up to the spirit, as he says, as I see.
Clean your way to God,
I
or
love
tennis your way to God, or art your way to God.
Yes.
Anything that you do, what is your gift? We need you to give it.
Yeah, so reflect on those things you used to do when you were a kid naturally, and just see how you can integrate those. See those things that you actually enjoy doing or that people compliment you on. And with the whole cleaning side, and then speaking of how, you know, troubles come up at all levels of the path. Guaranteed gonna run into some other crazy shit up the trail eventually. And you'll make more mistakes. And cleaning could also be put as forgiveness and like self-forgiveness. Like he's saying, he's had to clean all this crust off of him. I know I'm still working as well on myself because we make mistakes, and nobody judges us and inhibits us more than ourselves. And so practicing that cleaning in your environment and with yourself through forgiveness and just accepting, that's part of the perseverance of the whole path, is knowing you're gonna screw up, right? You're gonna hit a part of the trail you've never been on and you're gonna fuck it up. Like, guaranteed, it's brand new, you know? Maybe you'll get through a few new things well, but we'll make mistakes, and forgiveness is part of the perseverance and just patience with yourself. So that's what came up for me when you were sharing that. I wanted to bring that point up.
Key. Yeah, that was part of the water fast. There was a lot of forgiveness towards the end, like the last 10 days. It was just, these resentments were coming out in the form of dreams. Very specific people, very specific dreams, very clear. And each night there was another person that needed to be forgiven because I couldn't do it on my own. That's the miracle of fasting, is that it does for you what you're not able to do for yourself. Because the spirit takes over when you stop feeding your body. And then there was so much forgiveness, and then there's been so much lightness after that. So much lighter. And that was one of the blessings of the 40-day water fast.
That's beautiful, and that's definitely a place we line up, is the power of fasting. And I find it as you don't take in any more than you need. You know, you're not a parasite in the sense. You take what you need, and then you contribute to the whole. And I think fasting really helps you find that level. Like, do you really need to eat? I mean, once you've gone 40 days deep, you know what hunger is, you know? Or you know when it's actually an emotional trigger. So fasting consistently, doing extended fast every once in a while, really clears the mind, and you become aware of what your triggers are, what's really driving your consumption, how much you really need, how food makes you feel, how people make you feel.
True blessing, yeah, exactly what you said, because, man, I've just been dialed in ever since. You know, and eating is good because it's a different, like the fasting state and the eating state is different. And eating, you have to honor that and that flow, but you definitely don't want to eat yourself to death. So obviously nutrient density, I've found. So I'm on 1 meal a day with some juices during the day, and that's just working great. And I've had so many eating issues the whole time. And I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but I am, 20 times more in control. And I just say no to like everything. I mean, I'm at a point now where I don't expect this from anyone, but it can be a seed, but I just gave up spices, salt, everything. I want my food to taste good in a nourishing sense, but I don't want that excitement because it creates sort of a pleasurable habit. And then you're like, oh, what am I going to eat with my salt tonight?
Right,
what am I going
right.
to eat with my spices tonight? And
Yep.
it has nothing to do with the nutrition, but if you, and we're fortunate here, and so I'm very understanding of this, that some of the food, or a lot of it, doesn't have the same flavor. But when you can get high quality, nutrient dense foods and eat simple, plain foods, like avocados and just fruits and simple, basic, plain food. And I let you make up your mind, on what that means to you, but more and more simplification, nourishment, and then nourishing yourself with all these other things we're talking about. Was when you're service and you're in love and you don't have a lot of friction from all the resentments and the fears, you don't need as much food, and you most certainly don't need as much stimulating food. And then it begins to become more of an awareness of, like, for me, I look at the juices and the fruits as like cellular conductivity and ATP and electrical energy and hydration and mineralization. And then I look at the evening meal as fats and fiber for the microorganisms. The fats are like the logs. The sugar, the carbs, I know that's such a bad word these days, but the carbs are like the kindling. And I burn kindling all day up until 4 or 5 o'clock when I eat my meal, and then I have that big fat meal with all that fiber, ginger, turmeric, greens, with all the dirt on it. Not big chunks of mud, but like if it's a little bit dirty, I leave it, and I want that. And so that's my microbiome salad. So in the day, I drink and eat fruit for myself, under the illusion that genetically I'm 1% human, because of all the genetic potential of all the microbes living in your gut is like 100,000 times more than your own genetic potential at the level of the DNA. So you're like 99% microbiology, really. And besides that, 99.99999% empty space. So you're actually a hologram of light at the deepest levels of the fractal patterns. If we had microscopes that went that small, we'd be able to see that you're pure empty space almost, and that 0.1% of you that's there seems to be quite a real illusion.
Infinitesimally small and dimensionless is how we define it right now.
Yeah.
When we get to the base of things, you're made up of absolutely nothing. You're like a glowing speck of
light.
Yeah, there you go.
But we do honor the blob. And then there's the microbiology, which does affect your brain. So you can use this thing as a computer relay system to this brain to calibrate it to whatever you want. Now me, I want to be a natural earth child with my feet in the earth, so that everything is practical and pragmatic and truly useful, so that I can bear fruit on earth. But I also want to collapse down in the infinitesimally small. How small does God get, and how big does it get? Well, we can't even think of what a trillion is like, or a quadrillion. We can't even imagine that number, and yet there's no way we're going to be able to imagine infinite, and that's what it is, and that's what makes you silent. You can speak the words, but when you get wise, it's the silence that's speaking for you, and the silence is the predominant, way that you sort of embrace or interact with the world, because you're aware that you're empty space. You're aware that God is silent, still, infinite potential, but yet it's creating this amazing, like, duality. And then there's this cool dance, and you can get and is engaged in the dance. You can choose where you want to be. And so when we're choosing, it looks like if we really just divine ourselves with the light and align ourselves with the divine light and let thy will be done, then our hands become these amazing tools of our heart. And then we can do, whether it's just your grandma, or if you have a huge YouTube channel, or you work at a church or anything, anywhere. You can do it. You can be it as a construction worker, a garbage man. It doesn't matter. It's the way you carry yourself. It's your intention. You don't have to have. It can be anywhere at any time right now in this moment with the shift of your consciousness and your intention and your declaration to yourself or out loud or on a piece of paper to be a blessing to those around you. When you do that every day, you come back to the selfishness. You're like, holy crap, I'm so blessed. When you teach others to be abundant or you give generously, you see that the universe just dumps it on you. You can't even spend it fast enough. Once you start spending it for good things and being abundant and helping people, and like, I don't really need a massage, but I'll take one because I can see that you could use the money, or anything that you can do to be generous and charitable is going to be a huge blessing. But you want to make sure that you're doing it from that place of purity,
not
and
because
then
you
you'll
want the
see the
feedback loop.
results.
Yeah.
And so you got to be very mindful of that. That your intention is pure, because you're like, too many are like, I'm going to be a yogi, and I'm going to get cities, and then I'm going to be a great yogi, and then I'm going to get on the stage, and they'll write books about me and songs, and I'll be the greatest yogi of all time. That's the cart before the horse. Forget about all that, or it'll never even be possible. And I'm aware of that. And so I try to keep the humility, but also be strong and courageous and forthright with where I'm at right now. And that seems to be really working for me right now. And I hope to see even more of that energy coming through, that courageous confidence in speaking my truth and letting the seeds land where they may. And there are those on this video, probably not too many of you that are still with us, that are going to be the richest in the ripest soil. Like, screw these idiots. You know, they clicked off about at minute 5.
ADD.
Yeah, and then there are those of you that are still with us, and I'm going to imagine that those of you that are still with us are the good soil, and these seeds are landing in good soil. We're not wasting our time. We're farmers, and we're planting these seeds. You're going to grow and bear fruit, and you're going to bless those around you, and in turn, you, and I'm getting goosebumps right now, you are the blessing to me, you, right now. And so thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah,
Dan.
dude.
Woo!
Should we end there and do it again, or?
Yeah, let's just keep doing it forever, for
Okay.
all time, the continuous prayer. I'm extremely appreciative of you once again taking the time to share and just reiterating service, honestly expressing yourself, and finding that natural, innate love, your art, and finding your way to share it. That's what I'm really learning, what I'm really hearing, and once again, I really appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to wrap up with?
We didn't get into the details of. We kind of wanted to talk business success, but we'll do that again. Maybe we'll do that at my house. Maybe
we got
put on
plenty,
like
plenty to talk about,
a
man.
shirt or something.
I'd love to pick your brain on the microbiome as well.
Oh,
if we can do a
God.
session on that.
I am obsessed.
That's the community.
It's so
right there.
cool, and if you get it right,
Yeah.
I started working on that consciously, the microbiome in my gut. My happiness level went double instantly as soon as I made that conscious decision. Although I've been doing it unconsciously for years by looking at what is nature. You know, are these crackers from nature? Is cooking, what is the cooking doing? And once I applied the microbiology to the cooking, and I could go in depth onto that, onto why I think as much of your food can be alive and dirty as possible. And then for that microbiome transmission of communication, which I've had a lot of blessings from focusing on that. And that was from an obsession with the colon for like the last 25 years. I love the colon. And now I'm understanding it so much more. And it's just so awesome that we're finally having the science to explain to us that it's make it or break it. We knew it was make it or break it in the colon, but we didn't really know what in the heck was going on because we didn't have the technology. And I love the left brain stuff. When you can, it's like, you're an idiot if you don't serve. You know, it's like, I could serve maybe. No, you're dumb if you don't, because you'll never reap the true rewards of this life. And when you see that with your left brain, because you kind of, it's a mathematical equation of mathematically, you see, if you don't serve and you're selfish, you're going to screw yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to be an empty soul, trucking through life, sad, depressed, on drugs, and totally empty. And when we were talking about the little yogi thing, we want to make sure that, you know, we're doing it for the right reason. And it's silent. It's between you and God. And then we get up here and we play our little puppet show. But you know whether it's real, because there's a lot of not real. And if you really want, it's better to have an audience of one who's truly interested in what you're doing, and you two are there gathering together, and then he shows up. That is better than you're on stage in front of 100,000 people singing a song that isn't really getting to the root of what we need to do to change ourselves and this planet and bring joy, you know? And so it's that purity of all the yogis for thousands of years. Who's the rare yogi who is gonna get the cities and be like, I don't want that, and keeps going? I don't want to be able to read people's minds or levitate above the ground or hold my breath for 10 hours or any of that. That's all nice, and those are biophysiological possibilities, but that's not the goal, you know? And we want to just remember, in this life or the next, it does not matter, but you will never be satisfied, in my experience, unless you are on that razor's edge every step of the way. And if you get knocked off, you bring up that persistence again, you redouble your efforts in surrendering and staying on the path. And so it's multitudinous for sure, but it's really just staying awake, being present. And meditation is the key.
Amen.
For that.
Awesome. Well, I guess we're going to end it there, and hopefully, God willing, we'll be back with some other topics, because I could definitely.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about the field effect, is your consciousness really brings out the best in me. So you got the main field, and then your audience must be really tapped in as well. And so there's a great field here. This is one of my most enjoyable interviews ever. So thank you.
Mahalo, brother.
Yeah, dude. I really felt the best of me came through, and I thank you for listening and letting me share, because I love to talk and I want to get this out there, all this stuff that's on my heart. So thanks for taking the time to listen. We will do it again. We'll talk about success online and what I think that takes. So we'll leave a hint. Service, you know, and yeah, your intention is going to be, and the money and all that will just come. The success will be automatic, you know, and the more pure and clean and wholesome your intention is, then the more the universe is going to be like, here's this person, here's this person, here's this. It all dialed itself in for me on accident because I had a pretty decent intention, and there was some selfishness there, but what I've done is really tried to get rid of as much of the selfishness as I can. I still care for myself. I don't answer every single email. I don't call everyone back. It can't be done. But the ones that resonate, you write a certain way, I can feel it. I do my best to do my best. And then I leave it at that, because you can't bail out the whole world, but you just got to continually, you know, stay balanced and try to be less selfish. And God, that's another thing. I mean, money talks. When people pay you, they show up. When they don't pay you, that's how we talk here. That's how we show up here. It's like, do you put your money where your mouth is? So you kind of do a disservice in our culture when you give away everything for free, because you don't really know if they're even going to do anything with that. But when people pay you a good chunk of money, they're right there, and they are ready, and they're ripe, and that is honoring you, and that is honoring them in our culture. Because you can give it all away for free to the wrong people and throw pearls to swine. And these are your golden treasures, and that's what I've learned. These are the golden treasures of my heart, live food and all this stuff we're talking about. And so to have that poo-pooed on the internet was tough. Yeah. Now I'm coming clean and I'm coming correct. Say anything you want against me. But the right people are the ripe, and they're the fertile soil. The seeds went in and my job is done. I am satisfied. And that example can be for you, because I have gone from a certain place to a very high level of just fulfillment and happiness. And so there is so much more to share. So we will do it again. This is your video, so I'm gonna say it anyway. So
Well,
give it a thumbs up.
He's been doing videos for like 10 years, so it's in there. Yeah, and
Give it a thumbs up.
Definitely check out his work. You do offer consultations, right?
Yeah.
From where, yeah. Hit up his channel, check out his work, see what
What
he's
is my
offering.
channel?
Life Regenerator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life Regenerator. We'll link that down below, right?
Yeah. He's on Instagram, all that good jazz.
Yeah, and if I can be of service to you, I will. My videos are awesome, and they're just going to get better and better. So, yeah, subscribe to this channel too if you haven't already.
Boom.
And subscribe to my channel if you want to.
Boom.
And let's everyone rise up.
Support each other.
Yeah.
Amen.
Aloha.
Dude, aloha, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you. 1 hour.